know me. I've met with you multiple times, I'm sure. I'm Andrea Auer. I work over in Retirement Plan Services. So if you ever do have a question about your 401k plan, I'm the individual you call, you shoot an email to, whatever it may be. But today our focus really is going to be springing into action, kind of some of that spring cleaning to our financial wellness. Now, a couple questions. Did anyone know that April is Financial Literacy Month? Okay, Laura did. So April is actually Financial Literacy Month. That's kind of one of the reasons why this topic came up for this month. How many of us have actually done some spring cleaning? Personally, like inside our house, outside our house. I mean, I'm sure some of us, I've been picking up acorns and leaves and everything else around our yard recently. How many of us feel like we've done some financial spring cleaning? A few of you, hey, that's more than what I had on Monday, so that's great. But the majority of you say, no, I really haven't taken much time to look at my financials or really focus on much of this area. One, I think it's a great opportunity to do so. And one, with it being April, being Financial Literacy Month, it's kind of in our minds. Two, when you're doing your spring cleaning for your house, why not do your spring cleaning for your financials? So we're really going to kind of talk about three different areas today. But the three questions, three different areas, starting off with three different types of questions. One, are you ready to accept responsibility for changing your financial situation? Now, this isn't a positive attitude, too. It might be a minor change that you have, but are you ready to make a change? What about, do you believe that you can and will change your financial decisions? So, if you say, yes, I'm going to do this, but you never have any follow-through, we know that doesn't really help us do anything, right? When I heard Laura, when she walked in here, it's cold in here, we could work out in here today without sweating. Well, if you say you're going to have this great workout plan, but you never work out, are you ever going to lose the weight or get back into shape? No. Ryan says yes. He snaps his fingers and he's there. Then you're looking here also, what about, can you identify at least one area or one benefit that you hope to gain from changing your money management behavior? I think all of us can come across one area that we can easily change and benefit from. Again, it may be something minor, but we all have improvements that can be made there. So when we're looking at our financial cleaning, one, we need to be willing, we need to be ready, and we need to be able to take that financial responsibility. And it kind of starts with three different areas. Cleaning the clutter, cleaning up or clearing the clutter, cleaning up your credit report, and counting your pennies. How many of you helped with Shred Day last weekend or attended Shred Day last weekend? Just a couple there? Okay. Well, tell me this. How many of us feel like we have material at our house that could be either recycled or shredded, or even put away somewhere, filed and organized? I think probably all of us, yes. I give a perfect example of my organizational skills versus my fiance's organizational skills. He would keep everything for 10 plus years if he let him. I am a wonderful fan of shredding, and I am a wonderful fan of recycling. So it's one of those things of, one, what do you keep? What do you need to shred? And what can be recycled? If you notice, of course, you already had a PowerPoint in front of you can take notes on, but the other sheet I gave you was just talking about what to keep and how long to keep it. Now, with this, Debbie sent out, within the last week or two, sent out a Money Matters within your retirement plan. Does anyone ever read our Money Matters on a quarterly basis? You say yes, great. The Money Matters actually this quarter had a feature article on what to save. We thought it was a great opportunity with Shred Day coming up, and we specifically focused on this. So this is out on our website as well. If other individuals need it, you can get to it. And I will show you where it's at the end of the presentation. But if you notice, there's a couple of things here that talk about, one, bank statements. How long should you keep those? Keep them from 1 year if it's related to taxes, home improvements, business expenses. What about your bills? They say keep for 1 year if related again to that kind of information. A lot of times, as long as you know that it's paid, depending upon what bill it is, if it's more like utility bills, they say as long as it's paid and you have record that it's paid, you don't necessarily need to save it. That's kind of up to you. A couple others you're looking at here is home records, condo records, releases. If you have an apartment agreement, keep it until you leave that place. taxes. Anyone know on average how long you're supposed to keep your taxes? Okay. I think that's a pretty good rule of thumb. Everyone knows. Just kind of pointing that out there. But there are so many documents that you do not need to keep forever. And so when you're looking at that, some of the ones that you do want to keep forever are going to be pretty common. I think we kind of think about this. Of course, birth certificates, death certificates, adoption papers, military records, marriage or divorce papers. We like to keep those. Preferably we keep all these documents in a safe place as well. Passports, social security numbers, and any updated legal documents. So those are the main ones that you need to make sure that you keep. You have organized and you know where you have them at. It's one thing to know they're in your house. It's another thing to say, well, I think they're shoved in a book somewhere, but I have no clue where they're at. You need to be organized there and keep safely. Just making sure that you can clean that clutter. You can clear that clutter out. You don't need to keep the last 5 years of your LES bill. There's probably really no reason for it. And then determining what can be shredded or what can be recycled. My fiance is always on. He recycles everything, which is great because I get into that habit now. I'm getting better into that habit. But that's the thing is, can you recycle it or do you need to take it to a shred day or shred it at home? If there's personal information, I always suggest to shred it. If it's pretty generic and it's nothing that you feel, of course, that there's any of your date of birth, social security, private information, recycle it. Just as easy recycling as it is to go ahead and throw away. Does anyone have any questions about kind of the shredding or clearing out the clutter? It's a great time to do this spring cleaning. If you're cleaning out your office already, why not go through those old files? Just as easy to do it now. The other area, or the next area, is always cleaning up your credit report. Now, how many have pulled your credit report in the last year? Okay, so maybe about half of you. That's terrific. You want to make sure that you are able to pull that report on a regular basis. Your credit report really has a lot of effects that it can be positive and negative for you personally. You're looking here at how this can affect, one, it can affect your insurance rate, it can affect your job search, and it can also affect your mortgage. And I'd say this is one probably that most people notice the most often is how's that, where my credit score is at, is how's that going to affect if I'm getting a car loan or a mortgage. This used to say, the statistics said between 5 to 6% of what your mortgage was. I mean, that's no longer really. I'm using 3 and 4 now because, well, we see that, of course, mortgage rates are wonderful, and realistically, we'd like to see a 3% interest on your mortgage. But how this can affect you is based upon your credit score is going to affect what your interest that you're paying on your mortgage. And let's say you qualify for 3% or 4% on a $150,000 home with a 30-year mortgage. That's going to be over a $30,000 difference that you could potentially be paying for interest. So I'm just showing you that even just a 1% really can have a large effect, and that all goes back to where is your credit score at. So credit score will affect you in one way or another. You need to be taking more of a proactive approach. So many individuals never pull their credit report, never know what their score is. I'll use my parents as a perfect example. They did not have a clue. They just bought a truck within the last 3 or 4 months, and they had no clue where it was at. Now, thankfully, of course, they said, oh, you're fine, don't worry about it. But you have that situation where you never know if it's on the positive or the negative. And so that's why you need to take more of that proactive approach and make sure that you're doing what you can to always increase that. How can this help you? Just like we talked about, you can get a loan faster. It's, of course, a more fair decision having that credit report or that credit score. The better your credit score is, the better the decision is going to be, or the lower you're paying in interest, and you're going to have that benefit. Credit mistakes. I'm going to tell you this. One, you have to look at this because if there's a mistake on your credit score, it's affecting your credit score in a negative way. And even if it's a mistake, you need to be watching for that. When you're looking at your score, what you have to pay attention to is, of course, always the higher the better. And we'll look at three different areas for those of you who have not pulled your credit score or your credit report before. We'll talk about those three areas on annualcreditreport.com that you can search for them on. But there are different ratings, kind of depending upon which one you use. But on average, you're looking at, they usually say 760 and above, 760 to 850 is the highest, excellent. Anything that's 700 and above is normally, I see 700, 720, somewhere right in there is what they say is going to give you the best rate that you're going to receive. When you start looking below that, you want to see what you need to do to improve. Especially because if you walk in and you're looking at a credit score of a 500, one, I'm going to tell you, you probably will not be guaranteed or said, hey, approved for a mortgage or a car loan or whatever it may be. This really does have a direct relation on what you can be approved for. So you always are looking at how can I increase this, how can that benefit for me. Now what counts when you're looking at your credit score? 35% is payment history. Have you been current? What kind of history are you personally looking at? 30% is debt to credit ratio. And what this means is how much debt do you have versus how much open line of credit do you have. So you really want to make sure that, of course, if you have a credit line of $10,000, you're not always having that maxed out. The lower debt to credit ratio you have, the more beneficial it's going to be for you. When you're looking at 15% is your length of credit history. So a lot of times you hear individuals that are younger saying, well, I can't be approved for anything because I don't have any credit. Well, you need to start out at an early age trying to start building that credit. Whether you piggyback off with a parent or, for example, when I had my very first car back in, however many years ago it was, my personal bank, my small town bank, didn't report to the credit bureau. Laura had probably the exact same issue. We grew up in the same town. They did not report. We had to request them to show that I was building my credit there. So those are sometimes some issues the younger generation has, is the length of their credit history. And it takes time to be able to do that. A couple other things, new credit. Of course, I'm sure you've heard that before. Trying to open up a whole bunch of new lines of credit can hurt your credit score. And you want to pay attention to where you're at and how many different types of lines do you have open or new lines of credit in a small window. Where you can pull your credit report. Annualcreditreport.com. Very easy to do so. You have Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. The great thing about annualcreditreport.com is that you can actually, it's a free credit report that you can pull once a year from each of these agencies. So you can actually pull your report 3 times a year, and that's for free. Now your score, if you ever want to pull that score, you do have to pay for that, and it seems like it's normally between $8 and $12 or $13, somewhere right in there. But for your actual report, you can pull it once per year from each of the 3 agencies. I normally try to have a goal that I try to pull mine usually twice a year just to give a quick look at it to make sure nothing has changed, that there are any major concerns or red flags that pull up for me on what are we looking for. And these are the things that when you're looking at your credit report, you should check out. Your inquiries. What about incorrect address or employment? Inactive accounts with activity. That is huge. Or what about accounts that you didn't know you had? This is why you need to really make sure that you pull your report, because if maybe your identity has been stolen, or there are some random accounts that you never knew about that maybe still had a balance that maybe it was $100 balance or whatever it may be, and you had forgotten about, that is going to reflect your credit score in its poor manner. So you want to just take a quick look and say, yes, everything looks accurate, everything looks current. It'll tell you with your credit history how many times have you had a late payment. And it tells you if it's been 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days late. So you can kind of see those different types of history on how accurate have you been and how timely have you been. those are the different types of areas you always want to check. The last piece we're really going to talk about today is just really talking about your budget. Every single person can always benefit from a budget. I don't think I care who you are, I think everyone can. Because one, a budget is not a bad thing. So many times individuals think of budget means I have debt. I have to get out of debt and I have to work really hard to be able to make it to that point that I have in my mind. That's not the case. A budget could include saying, I have a goal that I want to make. I want new furniture in my house and I'm going to budget for that. We want to take a vacation. We're going to budget for that. Robin and I have just been working on weddings here the last year or so. Guess what? There's a budget for that. And so those are positive things you're looking at. And so many times when I say budget to individuals, it's a scary word. They go, oh, I don't want to do a budget. No, no, no. I could never work with one. It just will never happen. Budgets can be as simple or complex as you want them to be. When you're looking, the very first step is you have to analyze your current spending. You just kind of have to check to see where are your dollars really going to. It's amazing that when I show you a couple of worksheets that are online, a lot of times they say estimate your expenses first and then go back and actually calculate where your money really does go. And believe me, most people underestimate and they're amazed. They never really calculate and say, how much do I pay in gas every single month in my car? Or how much do we eat out? Or for entertainment or groceries? Groceries is another huge one. They say, oh, I think we live off of $200 worth of groceries every month. And all of a sudden, you're going, nope, it was $350 or $400. And there's two things you got to think about that. One, can we cut back if we need to? Or two, just making sure that you know that that's within your budget. That if you're feeding a family of 4 or 5, that you know you have to spend that much to make sure that at the end of the month, you still have food in the pantry. So those are just things of planning is working with a budget. Housing, 20 to 30% you're looking at. Utilities, 4 to 7. Food, 15 to 20%. Then when you start going, transportation's a little bit larger there. They always say 6 to 20%. That's probably the largest expansion there. Then you have medical, clothing, investing, 5 to 10. I will tell you, that's always increasing. Actually, we very rarely ever see 5 to 10% anymore. Experts believe you should be looking at investing anywhere from 12 to 15% just in your retirement account is what statistics say. So just to let you know that. When you're looking at your retirement, you do get help. When you're looking at experts say 12 to 15%, because here at the bank we get matching dollars, and we also get profit sharing dollars. So we have help reaching that 12 to 15%. But believe me, that savings and investing is always increasing. I strongly recommend to look at least that 10, 12 to 15% when you're doing your calculation. Debt payments, 15 to 20%, depending upon the individual, and then miscellaneous, 5 to 10%. I truly believe that if you're working on a budget, you need to have financial goals. I think this is true no matter what you do. We were talking about working out a few minutes ago. I truly believe that if you don't have a goal to say, I'm going to work out 3 times a week, you're never going to accomplish it. And I think that goes along with your budget that says, if I want to pay off my credit card, you need to have a goal by when. How much is your credit card payments right now? How much do you want to pay off in full or just pay down $1,000? So really, when you're looking at financial goals, they need to be SMART goals. Can someone tell me what a SMART goal is? I know Laura can. Laura, you know what they are?
Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely.
So you have specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Because the thing happens when you're looking at setting a goal is one, if it's not realistic, well, one, you're going to fail, right? And then you're not going to want to continue on. If it's not timely, if you don't set a time of saying, I want my credit card paid off in full, well, by when? By the end of this year or by the year of 2017? If you start out too large and say, I want my credit card paid off by the end of this year, and you have a $10,000 credit card balance, and that's not realistic, it's never going to, of course, it's never going to be attainable. So you have to pay attention on where those goals are. Start small, be specific, and work from there. Your goals are always going to be changing, because as soon as you mark one off, you can add another one on. So it can just go from pay off one credit card by December 1st, or pay $1,000 down by the end of this year, or save an extra $20 per paycheck to my couch fund. So remember, it's not always about paying down that debt. It's where is your budget, what goals do you have? If it is paying down that debt, great. If it's trying to work towards finishing a basement, going on vacation, buying new furniture, that also should be included in on your budget. Does anyone have any questions so far? No? Okay. Few simple budgeting tips before we actually get into more of the resources that are available to you is going to be one. I know this sounds crazy, but live within your means. I know, right? You would think that everyone would know that. But it is always very important to define, one, needs versus wants. And living within your means, you need to determine those needs versus wants. I will tell you, one, we probably need to have a house, a roof. We need to have a roof over our head. But what kind of a house can we afford? We probably need to have transportation to get back and forth to work. But do you need that brand new Escalade that's going to be costing you $500 a month? Or could you buy a couple-year-old car that's reliable and works great for you? So you really have to focus on that. The other thing is, with that budget, again, I don't need to get a manicure or pedicure, and I don't need to get my hair done, but it's something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy getting my hair highlighted. That is a positive that I put into my budget, and that's okay. It's just realizing to say that's something that I want to do, and it works into my budget. At the end of the month, yes, I have money to be able to do that. So when you're looking at that, still learn to live within your means. Consider larger purchases for 24 hours. Always you hear sometimes people say sleep on it. Or if you have a significant other, a lot of times individuals say that you should set a dollar amount. And I will tell you, when my sister and her husband got married multiple years ago, they set the dollar amount at $100. Now they've been married for 15, 16, 17 years now. So maybe that $100 is no longer $100, maybe it's $250 or whatever it may be, but what you feel comfortable with. And if you're going to spend that, you just need to sit down and say, are we comfortable with spending these additional dollars? Yes, we are, or you know what? Let's take a few days, let's think about it, or maybe next month we can look at our budget and say, yep, at that point in time, it's okay to purchase. Prioritize is always important. Of course, you need to, when you're prioritizing, pay yourself first. You need to focus on your retirement account. You need to focus on your emergency fund. And then after that, you are looking at those debt payments. You know, you can't go out and buy that new furniture just because you want it when every single month you're barely making ends meet. That's living outside of your means. A budget is an ongoing thing. I tell individuals this, that you have to rethink, you have to revisit, and you have to revise your budget on a regular basis. I try to look at my budget on a quarterly basis. And what this means is, if for some reason this last quarter, maybe I have gotten off task and maybe we have eaten out a little too often, well, maybe I blew my entertainment budget for that last month or that last quarter. I regroup, I rethink, and I say, okay, next quarter is a whole new quarter. Or if I'm consistently seeing a trend that we spend this much at a grocery store, well, if I feel that that's because realistically we're buying healthy food, we're eating at home a lot, and we need to spend that much, I just need to reevaluate my budget and make sure that I'm okay with that and I'm changing some of those calculations. I use, for my perfect example, I mean, there are months that, believe me, I blow my budget. Anyone who knows me knows I love Runza, and there are some weeks that I eat Runza too often. My goal is once a week. Okay, now that's pretty sad, but that is something that you have to think about, is if you're eating out too much, or you're going out too often, or you're spending too much at the grocery store, believe me, those are the ones where individuals don't realize how much they spend. The other thing you always want to pay attention to is situations will change. You get an increase in pay, you change jobs, you get married, you have children, whatever it may be, that will, of course, drastically change your budget. I don't have children yet, but they say they're expensive. I know my budget's going to change when we have children someday. And that's going to be probably a very rude awakening for us. And so those are things we need to plan for. It's a positive thing to plan for, but you have to plan for it. Now, there are several tools that I want to talk about that maybe will assist you, that you have different resources that are available to you. Before we do that, any questions on the budget side? Gosh, we had lots of questions yesterday. It was like a third of this room. Sorry, I'm actually come over here. I can't see which ones I'm at. A couple of ones I first want to point out. Has anyone been to the Retirement Education Center before? We promote it, Robin has, so that we promote it all the time when we're sending out those emails. But there are several calculators and actual media files talking about financial wellness. This is something that we use, one, internally, and as Union Bank, we use for all of our clients externally. And so this is our education center. It's on our ubtrust.com website, which is just right on that next page that I showed you here. The nice thing about this page is, one, we break down some different things by ages and stages. And so, of course, a 20-year-old versus a 62-year-old are going to have different risks and different considerations that they need to think about. And that's just, again, not just retirement, but overall financial planning. So a few things I want to point out to you is under calculators, there are, if you see under personal finance calculators, there are several calculators out there that can assist you. If you're looking at right here, the home budget, they have the Java thing set up, so I don't know if it'll allow me to pull it up or not. But on here, it's just your budgeting calculator. And the great thing about this is just an online, quick resource that you have available to you to be able to see where your dollars go on a monthly basis. You go in and it's, yep, yeah. Okay, so this is what you would exactly see, and it's going to give you a pie chart after you enter in where you believe you spend your dollars. And so if you go into expense calculator, it's going to pull up what is your house payment, what about your home maintenance, your auto payments, your electric, different things like that. You can enter that information in very easily, very quickly on this website, and it's going to show you by percent where are you actually, or by dollar-wise and percent, where your dollars are going on a monthly basis. This is a very basic, very easy, very simple calculator. We also have several other different types of calculators on here talking about your net worth, snowballing your debt. So what that allows you to do is, if, for example, you want to pay off 3 credit cards over the next 5 years, there are different ways that you can do that. Maybe you really focus on your first credit card with the largest interest that you're paying. And you put extra money towards that, you pay the minimums on the others. And once that first one gets paid off, you take that money and you move it to the next one. Or some individuals like the idea of, I'm going to take the smallest balance and I'm going to pay that off first because that makes me feel successful, because now, instead of having 3 separate credit cards, I only have 2 with balances. So you have to decide which one or which approach works best for you. But we also have a calculator on there for that. Again, we have a few media files out there as well that just kind of talk about basic budgeting, debt reduction, those types of things. Another one that I want to talk about is going to be just even our ubt.com website. If you log into your into your Union Bank checking account, there is a very basic tracker on there, an expense tracker. And that does calculate some of where those dollars go. And if some of them come back as uncategorized, you can categorize them. The ones I always find out never are categorized is Runza and Hy-Vee, okay? Just to let you know. And I think those are more because they're more locally, they're not national there. But some of those types of things may not categorize, but they're very easy to go in and categorize for you. Does anyone use the expense tracker on the UBT website? No? Okay. Well, that's just a very basic one that you can look at. If you want on a monthly basis, we have on the UB Trust website that calculator I was showing you. Another one that we have available to you, and actually I'm going to jump back to the UB Trust website. If you go under Tools, if you're an individual that actually would much rather have a paper copy, there is right here under Budgeting Expense, Personal Savings, no, Budgeting Worksheet, there we go. There is a budgeting worksheet that you can print off or enter in your dollar amounts on a monthly basis. And so if you are one of those individuals that would much rather print it off, see it in person, or use an Excel file, that's also available to you. This worksheet is where I was talking about that it's amazing if you do your estimated expenses and you say, oh, I think we spend this much on gas each month, or I think we spend this much at the grocery store, and then you actually go back and calculate it. Believe me, there are going to be some areas that you are shocked, and you're going to say, I did not realize I spent that much. What can we do to either, one, going forward, reduce that, or two, plan better so we know that's how much we spend each month? So again, you can use the calculator, you can use the printout form if you want to, you can start off with an Excel file. I know some individuals will count to the penny, month to month to month, and have their budget that detailed that they know how much they have to have in their checking account at the end of every month or the beginning of every month to pay all of their bills and be good to go. I will say I'm not that detail-oriented about that, but I know both. There are some extremes. Another great one that is available to you is going to be Mint.com. How many have used Mint? Okay, I was going to say, I know there's at least a few of you in the room that have used Mint. Mint is an online tool. It is a secure website, so realize that. And it has been recognized multiple times. Fortune magazine, Money magazine, all over the place from financial pieces, that this is one of the best free online tools available. So it is a resource that is an option for you. What happens here is Mint is a website that can actually connect all of your accounts together. You can connect your checking account, possibly your mortgage, if you have credit cards, possibly student loans, whatever it may be, you can connect it through Mint. The great thing about Mint is it's going to track all of that again in one central location. And it's going to tell you where those dollars are going. It tracks and it categorizes the majority of items. And again, just kind of like even the basic UBT website, if it doesn't, you can go in and manually categorize it. And so you can say, a nice goal is, this is what my mortgage payment is going to be. Every single month, it's going to say at the first of the month, yep, you hit your mortgage budget, because you know that mortgage is $1,500 a month, and you hit it right away. You can set up a budget for your groceries or your entertainment. And the nice thing about that is it can send you text messages, emails, or when you're going in, there's an app on your phone for it. When you go in there on April 23rd, it may tell you, hey, did you know that you're 100% to your budget on entertainment? That means I ate out too much this last month. So that either tells me, one, I need to reconfigure, or two, I probably need to eat at home the rest of this month. So the great thing about Mint is you can set yourself your own goals and your own budget, and they can be changed. But it will also notify you of them. It can also, again, it's not just that debt. It's just saying, hey, I want to save this much every single month in my savings. It can track that for you. And you can actually write in little goals to say, I would like to save $100 every single month. And again, it'll tell you what your progress is. Does anyone have any good stories on Mint? None?
Good at goals too. Like
yeah.
I really like the goals feature, but pay off a credit card or save towards a vacation or something like that.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is it's not always a negative. I say that more than one time. So many people think budget is a negative thing. Oh, we have to pay off that debt. It's not. It's those positive goals. What do we want to work for? And Mint is a great online resource to be able to assist you with that. Every single individual is different. Some individuals want to use the Excel file, want to have that paper copy, want to do it month to month. Others say, you know what, I like the idea of being able to bring all of my accounts together under one secure platform and be able to monitor and manage it from there. That's personal preference. One other tool that I want to discuss today is going to be the assessment. Now you saw this in the wellness emails, and you've seen this on LimeAid, that there is an assessment that you, if you go out there and you take this assessment, I think it's an extra 25 points you get. Has anyone taken that assessment yet? Okay. Now, one, hopefully it didn't scare you away, because some of this assessment can take quite a while. It's okay. One, Rachel said yesterday, you don't have to do every single step of it. It is a 30-step assessment, but it is a great assessment because it gives you different examples. It gives you saying these are areas that you need to focus on. And here are some tips that maybe to help you focus on these areas. I think yesterday an individual talked about how the insurance, it was telling him how to plan for his car insurance, that maybe if he put this much away every single month, it wouldn't be such a shock when his insurance was due twice a year or whatever it is. And so those are some different items that it talks about. So yes, you can use this product as much as you want. Make sure, of course, you go into LimeAid and get your 25 points for taking that assessment. It's just, again, financialliteracymonth.com, just because, of course, it is Financial Literacy Month, and it is a great tool that is available to you. It's allowing you to take a few extra minutes out of your day to say, where am I at? Are there some improvements that I can personally make? And how do you make those improvements? Remember, you need to start off small. Whether it's, I've never checked my credit report, and this is the first time I'm going to do it, and I just want to see, that's the first step. And then you move on to, I'm going to check it twice a year, or even just once a year, to make sure you're comfortable with it. The budget it goes back to. And I kind of kept with the clearing the clutter, cleaning out your credit report, or cleaning up your report, and counting your pennies, because those are three areas that on this website they focus on as well. And they are three areas that are important for your financial wellness. It's a great time to think about it. And again, whether it's once a quarter, once a month, twice a year, it's an opportunity for you to even just take 5 minutes to say, how am I doing? Where is my budget been at this last month? And is there anything I need to change? Well, I knew I wouldn't keep you the full time today, but I do appreciate your time. Does anyone have any questions right now? Yes, Dustin. For college savings, you know, statistically not that I know of. I see individuals, you know, when I spent 4 years in college savings, that a lot of times I saw individuals just starting out small. The biggest thing is, again, is prioritizing. And I've read a statistic, this has been several years ago, so I don't know how accurate it is anymore, but they said on a poll, over 60+% of individuals would rather save for their children's college than save for their own personal retirement. Now, isn't that kind of backwards that children can get, you know, students can get loans, students can get student loans. I'm paying off my student loans right now, but no one's going to give you a loan to live off of in retirement. So it kind of goes back to that prioritizing, making sure that you are still paying yourself for looking at your retirement, taking full benefit of any matching dollars you get, then also focusing on your emergency fund, and then it kind of goes from there. So even if you start off small and you say $25 a month, you know, that's great. Or a lot of times my parents will give a certain dollar amount every year because with their grandkids, they say they have every toy imaginable. They have everything they realistically want. Technology purposes, you know, iPads, iTouches, whatever it may be, and they'll put an extra little bit. So a lot of times it seems like family members will put more in college savings for gifts too. So statistically no, but if you are interested, I can always follow up with college savings. And then that emergency fund kind of comes into that budget as well, is depending upon what statistic you look at. You know, some individuals say, start off with, if you have no emergency fund at all, they say your goal should be to work up to $1,000. That should just be your flat out goal. Other experts believe that you should have, depending upon your age, at least 3 to 6 months worth of your salary in an emergency fund, and the older we get, the more that is. They say by the time you retire, you should have potentially up to 1 year's worth of your salary saved in the emergency fund. Now, that's quite a large number there. So again, though, there's different statistics that you look at and knowing that you're paying yourself first. Yes. Yes, it can. Now, what they say, and that's kind of, it's hard because realize that your credit score, there's not one magical formula. And that's the thing people always ask us. Well, if I close 3 credit cards in one area, what percent is that going to affect, or what's that going to affect on my score? That's not necessarily the case, but, you know, they do say that closing too many of accounts in an area, yes, can hurt your score there. Also, opening up too many lines of credit can hurt your score. Looking at then also, they say also something about activity on your credit report. And that's something that, you know, sometimes you'll have inactivity, but you'll have a whole bunch of credit cards open. Just be careful on if you are closing them, when you close them. So, and there's not a specific time frame that says you can only close this many every month to that won't affect. I mean, there's not. That's just the hard thing. There's just not that area. It's not black and white by any means. Any other questions? Well, thanks everyone. Have a great afternoon.